This show is sponsored by Powerful Women USA. Hey everybody, I'm Jill Conway and this is Secrets of Powerful Women, a show dedicated to celebrating strong and powerful women and sharing their stories. So today I'm hoping you will be inspired and feel empowered and tap into your own power and start dreaming again. So my guest today is Ruth Harrigan, and Ruth is an entrepreneur who went from a career in finance to beekeeping and is now CEO Queen Bee of HoneyGramz. HoneyGramz is a thriving honey business, and if you don't know her name now, you will, because she's opening more stores in the New York area, and her business is growing by leaps and bounds. So Ruth, thank you for being here and welcome.
Hi, Jill. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Ruth, tell everyone now what you do.
I'm a full-time beekeeper, a small-time beekeeper, but I have a whole business around honeybees and pollinator-related products within our shops.
Right. So how did you get into the honey business, first of all?
Well, when my daughter Leah was turning 9, she was begging us for a dog for her birthday. Since I was working full-time on Wall Street, that was not feasible.
Right.
And we have 4 kids. So I read this article in the New York Times that this little girl kept a chicken in her co-op, another word for coop, in her Manhattan apartment. And I was really intrigued. I didn't know that you were allowed to keep chickens on your property. So I looked into it and I thought that would be a novel idea to give her chickens instead of a dog. So we did. For her 9th birthday, my husband and I got her 3 little chicks.
How'd she feel about that? I mean, when you want a dog.
She was not amused at all.
Right.
However, when the 3 chicks arrived in the mail, we just all fell in love with these 3 little 1-day-old chicks. And from there on, we've had chickens ever since. And we still have chickens today. Not the first flock, but we've had 3 or 4 flocks since then. But after we got the chickens, we realized we didn't know how to raise chickens.
Right.
So I went online and started to scour the internet to find out how to raise chickens in your backyard. In doing so, I stumbled upon a petition that asked us to please sign this petition to help us legalize beekeeping in New York City. This was back in 2010, and I didn't even know that beekeeping was a thing, nor did I know that it was actually illegal to be a beekeeper.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So I read the benefits of honeybees. We are dependent on them for pollination. Most of the food that we eat are pollinated by honeybees. And over the years, they have been dying, mostly because of overuse of chemicals. So I was very interested, and I signed the petition. And that led me to a beekeeping class in Manhattan through the New York City Beekeepers Association.
Wow.
I checked my calendar. I was available for the classes that were offered, so I signed up. And fortunately, upon completion of the beekeeping class, beekeeping became legal in March of 2010 in New York City. And I started with 2 beehives.
Wow. Wait a second. It was illegal to be a beekeeper in New York City until 2010.
2010, yes. It was... honeybees were deemed to be dangerous because they're considered venomous insects. They were up there with snakes.
Oh my goodness.
But until they realized how beneficial they are to our agriculture, they overturned it and made it legal again.
Okay. So, all right. So, but you didn't go to, so what I find is so interesting, and I always say this, like how you get from step A to step B. Go back to Ruth in college. What were you studying? Where were you? And just go there. So where were you in college?
I went to school for fashion buying and merchandising.
Wow.
I always thought I was going to be a big buyer for Macy's.
Right. Which was a coveted job. And
yes,
I don't know if it still is.
Actually, after I graduated, I went for their buyer trainee program, which I did not get.
Wow.
And they didn't tell me why. But I did end up working for Duofold, a thermal underwear company on 7th Avenue. And it was funny because I went on many interviews before I landed that job. I walked into that office at 499 7th Avenue, and it was a brand new office, and I fell in love with it. It was sparkly. It was everything I imagined a Manhattan office would be. And I told myself, this is where I'm going to work, before I even started my interview. Well, I met with the CFO, and we chatted for about 10 minutes, and he did not offer me a job.
Wow.
And I was a little upset, but then I thought, you know what? I'm not leaving. I want to work here. And I just sat there, and I stared him down, and it made it very, very uncomfortable for him. But I was really determined, because I went on so many interviews, and this is where I wanted to work. And he felt so uncomfortable that he finally made a phone call to another department and asked if he wanted to interview me for an assistant position. So he transferred me to another department, and I started working the next day.
Oh, my God.
I was determined.
First of all, you just sat there.
I just sat there. I just stared him down.
And it worked.
And it worked. So I worked there for about 4 years, and then I realized the fashion industry wasn't my cup of tea.
Okay.
So back in the late 80s, early 90s, there were a lot of temp agencies. So I bounced around like a fly on the wall in all these organizations, and I ended up working in the finance department of a pension fund.
Oh.
I fell in love with it.
Okay.
And that was my entry to finance.
Right.
And from that job, I was able to land a permanent job. Someone was on maternity leave, and I had this feeling that she wasn't going to come back. And I knew that was going to be my job. And she didn't come back.
Wow.
And I was offered a full-time job. And I worked there for a while. And then one of the employees there wanted to know if I would like to work for her husband, who was one of the principals at a hedge fund. And I went to interview, and we hit it off, and I worked there.
Wow.
And that was my real entry to Wall Street.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Right.
I ended up working in finance for 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Wow.
it was fast. It was great. I worked with a great group of people, and it was great while it lasted until I got laid off.
Okay.
And by then, I had already become a beekeeper for 2 years as a hobbyist. And what am I going to do now? And my husband said, well, why don't you do something with the bees?
Right.
And that's exactly what I did.
Now, what were you thinking? Were you thinking that you could make, because you have a thriving business, you really do. And did you think, like, I can do this? Or what were the thoughts going through your head at that point?
Well, of course, you talk about it to your friends and family, and everyone's a naysayer.
Yeah.
One of my beekeeper friends said, there's no money in honey. Don't get into this business. But what I learned over the years is that there's a lot of naysayers because they're not jealous of you or anything like that. They are fearful that you might fail. So they would rather that you did not embark on your dream. That's what I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your own intuition. And so what I did was I took something ordinary like honey and I added something extra to it and made it extraordinary.
And it is, guys. It is.
We added ginger to it and made ginger honey. It is our bestseller right now. We sell ginger honey all day long.
And it's you also, I mean, it's not just, I met you a couple months ago, I guess, and through other means, the real estate aspect, and then I tasted, you have a creamed honey.
Yes.
Which is to die for. Oh, what is creamed honey, and how did you even come about that?
Creamed honey is regular honey that's been whipped. And actually, when you have real pure honey, if you just leave it alone, as it cools, as the temperature dips, all pure honey will start to crystallize. it gets cloudy, and then it turns really thick and creamy. A lot of people think that it's gone bad, so they throw it out. In fact, that's a sure sign that you have real, pure honey. All you have to do is put the jar in hot water to reliquify it. Or if you're going to put it in tea anyway, just take a spoonful and put it in your tea. It'll melt.
Right.
But the reason why we decided to do creamed honey with all the different organic flavors that we add is that because it's so thick, when we add that extra ingredient, it will blend and it will be uniform throughout the honey. Rather, when you put it in regular liquid honey, it will float to the top.
Wow.
So this way, once it's creamed, you can spread it on toast, on pancakes or waffles.
I do it on apples because I have cinnamon and pumpkin spice, which I just bought the pumpkin spice. I love it.
It's delicious on apples and pears.
Oh my gosh.
And
it's all natural.
Yeah, it's all natural. And honey is very, very healthy for you. Honey's been revered as medicine in many cultures for hundreds of years. So every culture has honey in their diet.
It's so funny because I think when I met you and we somehow got on talking about this, and I said, oh my gosh, I just watched something about honey, and I said in the Civil War, people, the soldiers were putting pure honey on their wounds to prevent infection, and you were like, oh my God, yes. So,
and the reason is there's very little moisture in honey, so bacteria cannot grow in honey. So you are able to, it's a great facial. You can put it on your face, you can put it on wounds. It's very good for you outside and inside.
Right. Because like you have several and you just took your, for your throat, you just took a dose, and I bought that one too.
Yes, a little buckwheat honey. Yes, it's the best honey for coughs. Yeah, it soothes your throat and it's high in antioxidant. Children who have a little cough, just take a little bit of buckwheat honey. That's all it takes.
And it seems that everyone has a cough right now.
Yes, this is the season. It's been very, very dry.
Yeah.
Everyone's been coughing. The pollen count is very high. And this is a time to load up on some honey. Yeah. And if you have allergies to pollen, this is a time to start eating some local honey. And by spring, you will feel so much better. And the reason is that there's a lot of natural pollen in the honey itself. So when you're taking a scoop of honey, you can't see the pollen. It's microscopic, but it's in there, and it will help you a great deal. And you don't have, when we say local, it doesn't have to be from your zip code.
Right.
It's from your region. Okay. So any honey from the tri-state area will help you greatly.
Right. And I should say, I mean, you are creating quite a buzz. No, you really are because I mean, you've worked with big media companies. Right? I mean, you just sent a whole big bunch to a consulate in New York City.
Well, so my thing is, I show up for everything.
Yeah.
Because you never know who's going to show up.
Right.
I'll show up for small little Christmas fairs within churches or synagogues for Hanukkah. I'll show up for, we do a Queen's Night Market. It just ended last weekend, but every Saturday we're in Flushing Meadow Park, and I sell honey from 4 o'clock to midnight every Saturday.
Wow.
And sometimes it's not just about making money. If you love what you do, everything else will follow. But when we show up for these venues, yes, we do sell honey, but through that particular venue, a scout from Kennedy Airport actually stopped by to look for local businesses, and they approached me. And at first, I asked, well, how many levels of people do you have to get through to be in the airport? He said, no, I am the decision maker. I came out to seek out local women-owned businesses, and we are certified New York State and New York City women-owned business. And he wanted to do a test. This is a couple of years back, and wanted to know if I can sell honey outside before TSA and also set up shop inside to see which one was better. It turns out my daughter Leah, the one who begged for a dog, she set up a little table outside and I set it up past security on the inside. And I ended up doing a lot better than she did.
Really?
So they were so excited, they decided to do a Christmas fair within the airport a couple of years ago. And that was quite successful. And again, I showed up. And because I showed up, the buyers from Hudson News, they're convenience stores all over the airport, all airports. Yeah. And they saw me there, and they asked some questions, and they said the only thing they didn't have in their shops were honey. And so they placed an order to test it out, and we've been selling it to Hudson News ever since. And
you still have the thing in the airport,
we
right?
So to take that one step further, because now I'm on the airport's mailing list, Terminal 8 is renovating the terminal, and they are also looking for local women-owned businesses. And they sent out an e-blast, and we all went on the call. They are going to have 4 independent kiosks within the terminal. And they sent out an application. If you're interested, please apply. Of course, many businesses applied.
Sure.
I applied. I figured, why not? You know, I have just as good a chance as anyone else in getting in. So I applied and I went on vacation. I came back from vacation. We got in.
Wow.
So, as you know, in the past month, we opened
a lot. She's grown.
2 more new locations.
Yeah.
Today was actually the opening day at our St. James location at 529 Lake Avenue. A couple of weeks ago, we were fortunate enough to open a shop within a shop in Port Jefferson, and that's at 128 Main Street. We're part of the store called Celtic Apothecary, and they sell a fine line of handmade soaps and lotions. And last Friday, we have a temporary setup at the Bryant Park Winter Market in Manhattan. So we were very, very busy setting that up. That is going to be a very, very busy venue for us. Right. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be opening our temporary shop, Holiday Market, at Union Square.
Oh, I didn't even know this. Okay.
JFK permanent kiosk is due to open December 1st. So sometime between Union Square and the end of November, we'll be opening at Kennedy Airport.
So before we head to break, and we have about 2.5 minutes, what I keep hearing, and it's so interesting, your business philosophy, because I think this will help all women in business. You don't take no for an answer, which I love, but also it's like you give it a shot, right?
Yes, you have to. If you don't, how would you know?
Right.
I don't have a pros and cons list. And I don't play devil's advocate because that all leads to negativity. I am only looking forward in how it's going to work out. And I don't worry about anything because if you worry versus not worrying, the outcome is exactly the same. Ooh. So I sleep at night. I sleep very well at night, in fact. Once I go to bed, I'm out. Right. And I don't move until I get up in the morning. Right. So that's really, really important to have a successful business, is to have a good night's sleep. Yeah. Don't overthink things. Just do. And set aside all fears, because it's fear that keeps people from starting their own business or even attempt to start working on their dream. Put it all aside. You got to just cover your ears. And sometimes you can't listen to your parents or your friends, even your spouse sometimes. They don't know what's in your head. They don't understand where you're going. Only you do. So you have to just keep moving forward positively.
Oh my gosh. I love, love, love that. Okay. So We have about 50 seconds left. We'll be back with Ruth Harrigan, CEO of HoneyGramz, Queen Bee of HoneyGramz. That's HoneyGramz with a Z after the commercial break. The link will be on my podcast and website. You are listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Join our community, guys. Head to powerfulwomenusa.com for more information and follow us Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, and YouTube. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Ruth Harrigan is here, and she's a successful entrepreneur and now CEO of HoneyGramz. That's HoneyGramz with a Z. Ruth, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're an entrepreneur. Is there such a thing as work-life balance for you?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
You have to have a work-life balance. Otherwise, both will fall apart. I do work long hours.
Yeah.
But I always set aside time for my family and friends. And of course, in addition to my family, my friends are very, very important to me. I always carve out some time to have dinner with friends. We go away. And of course, most important person is my husband. Mm-hmm. He's behind the scenes helping me with blending the honey and all that after he gets home from work. So I cannot forget that.
Mm-hmm. So that's hard, though.
It's very hard. But he has vacation days, mm-hmm. and I am a little more flexible than he is. So there are times where we just take Tuesday and Wednesday off, mm-hmm. when things are not very busy. Mm-hmm. We just go away for 2 days. It could be, on the east end of Long Island. It doesn't have to be far. It's just a change in scenery, mm-hmm. so that we can decompress, mm-hmm. and re-energize. We love to go on long walks, somewhere quiet, or definitely we love hiking through the woods. And not only do we feel re-energized, I find inspiration, mm-hmm. in nature, mm-hmm. that translates into my business.
Right.
So I always have that on my mind, but I always make time for family and friends. I will not give that up.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I met some of your friends this past weekend, college friends, and yes. You still have very strong relationships with them.
I have very strong relationships, yeah. with my college friends.
Yeah.
We make plans to go away once a year.
Yeah.
It could be anywhere. Last year we went to Marco Island, yeah. and we're making plans for next year already. And I'm still very close with all my junior high school and high school friends.
Wow.
I keep in touch.
Yeah, yeah.
And
which is hard to do for a lot of people, especially someone like you. You go and go and go,
yes.
But yet you still can do that. What advice would you give to women, or men who are starting their business, who are really struggling with that?
You really have to make some good habits. Mm. You have to set yourself, keep a calendar. Mm-hmm. I stick to my calendar. Okay. So you work a certain amount of hours, but when you have dinner plans with someone, I literally follow my calendar, and when it's time to meet someone, I stop and I meet up with my friends. I never cancel. Once it's on my calendar, I'm good to go.
Okay. Well, that's good advice. I mean, write it down, right? So let's talk about, you started your honey business. We know that. But how did you start? On a very small scale, right?
Well, first I actually started at the worst possible time in my life. My husband had decided to go back to college to become a physical therapist. It was a 3-year program. And I said, great, go back to school. He also changed careers. He was in advertising, and then he decided to become a physical therapist.
Amazing. I mean, really, you're amazing family because, again, there is no, I feel like there is no voice in your head that's like, maybe I shouldn't. You're like, just go, do it. Let's try it.
So I said, yeah, enroll. Yeah. I'm working. You go to school. And it's only 3 years. It'll go by really fast. Well, the start of his second year, that's when I got laid off. That wasn't part of the plan. Right. I was supposed to keep working.
Right.
And it's funny that when I got laid off, I wasn't sad. I was actually a little giddy because it was such a good job. It's not a job that I would ever quit. But because the owners retired, they closed shop, and all 25 of us got laid off. And our bosses were really nice, gave us plenty warning that this is going to happen. But still, we all stayed until the very end. And then it happened. And now we have no income.
Right.
And I'm ready to embark on a brand new business. The savings, you go through it very quickly when you start your own business, especially when you have 4 kids and a mortgage. We did go through our savings really quickly. But it's funny. It just never bothered me. I figured, we have plenty of equity in our house. I'll just take out a home equity loan. Right. So I called the bank, said, I need $100,000. Wrong. Wow. They will not give it to me. Wow. I did not know that you have to be employed. You have to have a W-2 in order to apply for a line of credit.
Right.
So I wasn't very happy with their answer.
Right.
They told me, well, you should have applied while you were still employed.
Oh,
well, when I was employed, I didn't need the money.
Right.
Now I need the money, but I can't get it. So unfortunately, I had to start using my credit cards, which I know a lot of entrepreneurs do because there is no financing for people who are starting out.
Right.
So those of you out there who is dreaming about starting your own business and you're still working full time, just lock in that line of credit now. You don't have to use it. Just have it in case you need it because you won't be able to get it once you quit your job.
So what did you do? What did you do?
I lived off of our credit card. Once the savings went, I unfortunately had no choice.
Sure.
And
your story is not so uncommon. A lot of people are doing that.
So many people I know do it. But in the back of my mind, I kind of set a goal for myself. I knew that in time, even with the high interest, that I was able to pay it off. But, I assured my husband, I said, just bear with me.
Right.
Just bear with me.
Right.
We'll get through this. It's going to work.
Right.
It took a few years.
Sure.
But we're now debt free.
Wow.
Yeah. It worked.
But you started, so go back to right at that time, and you were starting, I think you said you started selling just a couple of little bottles
I literally had one SKU, only my own honey that I produce from Douglaston, Queens.
Because you have hives.
Yes, I have hives.
And I've seen them. They're very cool. Yeah.
And I was so excited to be in this art festival at the train station near my house. I had about 40 jars of Douglaston honey. I was just so excited. I had pictures up of myself, with bees, and my daughter was with me, my husband, and my whole family was there supporting me. And I sold out in 2 hours.
Wow.
And I had the rest of the day. So I just talked about bees. I can talk about bees all day long.
Right.
And that was enough to excite me to continue.
Right.
And I just kept going.
And now, I said that you have how many hives, you said?
I only have about 10 in Douglaston, and I have about 6 hives in Brooklyn, and I have a hive in Bayside.
So how much honey does one hive?
One hive can produce as much as 200 pounds.
Wow.
But not every hive produces. It varies. So you can have a year with 100 pounds of honey. You can have a year with 400 pounds of honey. So as my business grew, I have to rely on other beekeepers.
Sure.
because I just simply don't have enough honey to go around.
Well, I know when we visited your hives, it's very interesting. I didn't know a whole lot about honey or bees, but you talked to me all about the queen bee, and then even the guard bees that guard the door, right? Which it's like, wait, what? It's like truly the most amazing nature at its best.
Well, the funny thing is, the beehive is exactly what your show is about.
Right.
There's about 50,000 bees in a beehive, and there's only 3 different types of bees. You have one queen bee, you have about 200 drones, and all the rest of the bees are worker bees. And every time I ask people if you think workers are male or female, unanimously everyone says they're male bees. No, they're not. They're all female bees.
Right.
All workers in the beehive are females.
Wow.
And all the bees that you see in the garden are females.
Wow.
So drones are only there to mate with the virgin queen, and they die. And
they're obviously the males, right?
Yes.
So then they die off, and that's it.
yes.
Wow.
And they don't do any work. And because of that, they don't even have a stinger. So all the bees that sting you are female bees.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. Because they're out working. They need a weapon to protect themselves.
And you had said that they don't go, because I found this fascinating. The bees only go in their own hives.
Yes.
They don't go to random hives.
No. And if they did, there are guard bees that will kick them out. And they know the direction of the entrance to their hive based on the direction of the sun. And that's how they find their own hive. They're very accurate. In fact, when the bees find a field of flowers filled with nectar, they will do a waggle dance. And the waggle dance, they will dance profusely, shaking their body, which tells the other bees in which direction towards the sun to fly and for how long. So they know the distance.
Wow.
And sure enough, they will find a nectar source based on the waggle dance, and then they make a beeline. That's the fastest route from point A to B back to the hive.
Wow. So there's been obviously all the pesticides that people spray in their flowers and their lawns and everything is a big problem.
It is a huge problem. And everything points to chemicals when it comes to colony collapse syndrome, which is bees are dying. They're disoriented. They can't find their way back home because it's an overuse of chemicals on farms, in our gardens. There's no reason to use any chemicals in our garden. My garden in Douglaston is 100% organic. I have the chickens to eat all the grubs. Everything I plant is organic. I just throw seeds on the ground in my backyard and everything grows. Wow. We crush up all the used eggshells and it's great minerals back into the soil, and the chickens even eat it. So we have a real nice balance. It's all about balance. Not just work and play, but also our environment needs to be balanced, and the balance is way off. Our whole environment has been contaminated, and we have to do our little part to help bring nature back. And when bees are dying, all the other pollinators are also dying. Monarchs, we have dragonflies, bats. It's all because of the environment.
Oh my gosh. And I think it was someone in your shop who was talking about lanternflies, and that's always been a big thing, but they're...
Well, what I learned, I went to the Eastern Apiary Association yearly meeting, and while everyone's saying to kill the lanternflies, I learned that honey made from honeydew, which is a euphemism for lanternflies' poop, it is the honey that has the highest antioxidant that's made out of lanternflies' honeydew.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's it. So we're killing these things, and that's
So,
probably not the
I mean,
best idea.
yes, they're detrimental to certain agriculture like grapevines on Long Island. But then there could be, positive things to these insects that we haven't really explored. So there's always a silver lining. There's always something positive. There must be a reason why they're here.
Right. Oh, that's cool. That's interesting. I didn't know that. So, let's talk quick about, moving forward. And, as you mentioned, there's always the naysayers, and certainly you have gotten to a point now where your business is growing. Do you still get the naysayers or people who say anything now that you've been in business how long now doing this?
A little over 10 years now.
Okay.
No, not so much. I think I've proven to them that you can make a nice little business out of selling honey.
Yeah. Well, it's more so. I mean, because I feel like more and more we're learning how important honey is to our bodies, and it's all natural and it's organic and it's the purest sugar, right?
Yes, it's better than table sugar.
Yeah.
Because the sugar and honey are two different molecules where they're separate, so that it's very easy to digest. You don't get the sugar high, and in fact, diabetics take honey. It doesn't spike their sugar level. So a little bit in moderation is good for everybody.
And you said something that honey doesn't expire, does it?
Honey is the only food on earth that never expires. And back to what I was saying, it's because there's very little moisture in honey. That's why it will never spoil. And again, silver lining, even when it goes bad, when moisture does get into honey, it will turn into mead, honey wine.
And I've only recently learned about this because this is a whole nother community.
That's a whole nother community. A lot of people are making mead now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mead was the first alcoholic beverage, and it's made from honey. Yeah.
Wow. And this whole equipment you can buy and buy your honey from you. And buy it from Ruth, obviously.
Or any beekeeper.
Yeah.
You make the most delicious mead.
So, Ruth, how do you stay motivated? Because is this your passion? Is this your life mission that you kind of
It became my life mission. I stumbled upon it, and I love everything about it. And I do a lot of classes. I go to schools. I go to libraries. And I just want to advocate the importance of bees to the public. Right. And every time I do my talk, everyone's surprised. They just don't have any idea that we need honeybees to survive. It's really important.
Right.
So if I can change one person's mind to help save the bees, I feel like I've done my job. In my neighborhood, one parent had come up to me once and said, my son was in your class and he told me all about bees. He was so excited. And I was so happy to hear that. And another mother said they were in the backyard and there was a bee and she's ready to kill it. And her daughter said, "You can't kill that bee. That's Ruth's bee."
Oh my gosh.
So I was just tickled to death to hear that.
Yeah. Is it easy? I mean, if I wanted to have a hive in my backyard, is it a lot of maintenance? Is it a lot of...
It does take a little time, but it's not every day. You can... and the season for us is not very long. It starts around May, and it ends around this time of year. And then everyone gets a respite. So during the summer, you check on your bees about every other week for a couple of hours. But every time I say, I'm going to check the bees, I'll be back in an hour, it's usually 3 or 4 hours.
Right. Well, I mean, what happens if you don't take the honey out of the hive? What happens to it?
I don't take a lot out of the hives.
Oh, okay.
Because it is their food for the winter.
Okay.
So I take a little bit and I leave the rest there. I don't feed my bees. A lot of beekeepers do this time of year because there's not a lot of nectar flowing anymore. But by leaving most of the honey for them to eat, I feel that's the right thing to do.
Right. Well, they work so hard for it. Right?
Yes, they work so hard, and they deserve it. Yeah. So I'm taking the excess. I know about how much they need to survive the winter. And in the spring, when I open the hives and there's still honey left, that's the leftover. then I can do another extraction in early spring. And as soon as
Right, 'cause it
flowers start blooming and nectar is flowing, then they can start making honey again.
So we have about a minute and a little over a minute and a half. What was the hardest part about starting a business, and what's the easiest part about starting a
Well,
business?
the hardest part is financing. So you have to beg your family and friends to help you out. I have wonderful family and friends who have helped me over the years, and they truly believed in what I did and what I'm doing. So,
and the easiest.
I get that, yeah. And the easiest is when you love something, everything is easy. Everything flows. We have a very nice flow going. Everything goes our way. Everything kind of fits like a puzzle at the end of the day. And it's just so rewarding. So rewarding. I sleep very well at night, like I said, because I work really hard and I tire myself to sleep.
Yeah. And you're doing a wonderful thing, and it's a great business. So a big, big thank you to Ruth Harrigan for coming on the show. Follow her on Instagram and Facebook on HoneyGramz Official, HoneyGramz with a Z. You can go to her website, HoneyGramz.com, to order honey and other products. You've been listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. If you're interested in receiving my newsletter to hear about upcoming guests and events, head to powerfulwomenusa.com and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, and now YouTube. I'm Jill Conway, everybody. Thank you for listening to the show, Women Empowering Women, and I hope you are inspired to pursue your own goals. We are stronger together. I hope you join us for the next show and share this with women you know. Thanks so much, everybody, and see you next time.